Jimmy Carter. "Hola, General, ¿cómo está?" said the very recognizable man with an always pleasant demeanor, a strong American twang filtering his words in Spanish. It was several days before the May 7th elections. Jimmy Carter, accompanied by his wife, had come to see me at my office in Fort Amador. Carter's Spanish was good enough so that the three of us could meet privately, without the need for interpreters or aides. Mrs. Carter spoke little, but jotted down notes on a writing pad. I didn't think much about it, but I suppose this encounter was unique for an American president, past or present. He could actually speak a language besides English. Perhaps, we had always hoped, he could also understand and respect a country other than his own. That was not to be. Carter had come to Panama as the head of a delegation approved to monitor the elections. He and his aide, Robert Pastor, along with officials from various other groups, had pressured us to accept such monitoring. We had been reluctant to do so, seeing it as a question of basic national sovereignty. I had argued weeks earlier with Pastor and others that given the United States' attitude, this would just be another infringement on our rights. We were under siege by the Americans, even though we had no civil war, as did other countries in the region. In addition, we did have popular elections every 5 years. We preferred following the Mexican political model. The United States, up to that point, had never sent election monitors to Mexico, which was neither second-guessed nor chastised seriously in Washington for its voting system. Why should we be different? Taking that line in what I assumed were confidential talks with Pastor, I was irritated to learn that he would quickly brief the news media on parts of our conversations, including my reluctance to accept American-influenced election monitoring. When, under pressure, we finally went along with the idea of having foreign observers present for the elections, Pastor found that he was not on the list of approved visa applicants. Carter called me on the phone about that, and Pastor was added to the list, not without my complaint about his breaking confidences. I first met President Carter in the course of the Canal Treaty negotiations and found him to be an honorable man. He realized that the United States could not continue to occupy a strategic piece of land on foreign territory and call it its own. He was a man of vision. I truly liked Carter, but I saw his role as that of a figurehead more than as the person who would actually be out doing the monitoring at the polling places. That, I assumed, would be handled by his staff. "General, it seems like the government is going to lose," Carter said. He apparently had already met with the opposition. I told him that I disagreed, and I showed him why. "First," I said, "after the Muse incident, there was no reason to give credence to anything the United States said or did concerning Panama. They were the ones commissioning the polls, which showed our Democratic Revolutionary Party in third place, sometimes even in fourth. We thought what they were doing was so blatantly cynical, so evident, that people would see through it. They always listed Ricardo Arias Calderon, one of the Civic Crusade's 2 vice presidential candidates, as the most popular politician in the country. Nobody believed that. We take our own surveys, precinct by precinct, and we're especially strong in rural and poor areas," I told him, pulling out some charts that had been prepared. "I doubt you'll win," Carter said, showing himself unmoved by what I had to say. I could feel that he was under the influence of what Gabriel Luis Galindo, the opposition, and the U.S. Embassy were saying. The meeting was short, and Carter was noncommittal. Afterward, I was surprised to find that the Americans had somehow bugged our entire conversation. Carter, of course, traveled with a security contingent that included Secret Service agents. But one member of the team was stationed outside the office, out on the grass behind the building. We had a man working close by him, pruning trees and cutting brush with a machete. The U.S. agent didn't realize that the gardener was also a PDF soldier assigned to the CIA liaison officer nearby. "The agent had the officer wired somehow," said a member of my intelligence team. "While he was doing the cleaning, the gardener could hear everything the two of you said." I was surprised and thought it would be unbecoming of Carter or his wife to carry in a bug to a private meeting. We never found out whether that was the case or whether perhaps a special long-distance listening device was used. I didn't see Carter again after that, but his complicity with the American plan became more and more clear. On Election Day, he apparently went to election headquarters and complained that he had seen a blatant case of falsifying a ballot. Magistrate Yolanda Pulice, the head of the Electoral Tribunal, said that his attitude and behavior had gone beyond his usually polite demeanor. Marching into the election office, Carter was heard by workers to berate one official. "Señor, usted es un ladrón. Sir, you are a thief." She rightly complained that this was interference in our affairs. The right approach would have been to file a formal complaint and allow an investigation. But Carter and the other election monitors fell into lockstep with the U.S. Embassy and the political opposition. Carter didn't come back and speak to me directly about his complaints. He spread word that aides prevented scheduling a meeting with me and that I had refused to see him, which was not true. He and Pastor, his aide, had my private telephone number and were accustomed to calling me without intermediaries of any kind, but they never called. While we did not have a sophisticated electoral tallying system, it was not a secretive operation. Overlooked by all the critics was the fact that representatives from all political parties participated in the count. Both at precinct and headquarters, government and opposition poll watchers sat side by side. The opposition charged that the voting was fixed, so their supporters started hijacking uncollected ballots, delivering them to Archbishop Marcos McGrath, who was well known for his enmity toward the government and the military. By law, ballots not signed by the Election Commission headquarters were not valid, but McGrath claimed that he had most of the unsigned ballots at the Archdiocese, which was doing its own count with its own computers and its own election operation. It sounded a bit like the Kurt Muse operation. The problem was that the church had no relationship to the official election board, which was designated by Panamanian law as the official arbiter of election results. How did anyone know that the ballots they would then present to the world were legitimate? The only answer could be based on the prejudice propagated all around us. The answer was, the gringos would say, Archbishop McGrath is an honorable church leader. Major Manuel Sierro, the chief of the Chorrera military garrison, caught people at the local parish in the act of running an illegal voting and ballot counting operation right inside the church grounds. The official raided the operation and seized evidence. In that way, we were able to show what was happening in many parishes, that the church was following the orders of McGrath and openly supporting the opposition.